Welcome in, everybody. I am your host, Matthew Miller, and this is the 40 Acres Texas postgame show live. Thank you for joining me. Possibly the last one of the year. We don't know if we're getting in a bowl game or not because 5-7, we got to wait out and see if the bowls are filled. And if they're not filled, then there's a really good possibility we end up in a bowl game. And obviously, I think that's really helpful because you get the extra practices and you get to build a little bit more of this culture that Sark's trying to build. So anything can help at this point. And I saw quite a bit of improvement on both fronts and both sides of the ball today, so that's a good sign as well. But before I jump into it, can you please hit that like button? Please subscribe down below. Really helps out the channel. Really helps out what Mark in the tickers trying to build out here on YouTube. He's building the college football empire. He's trying to follow his dream. So please hit that subscribe button here. Go follow his other channel. Subscribe there. Subscribe to this channel. It really helps out. Thank you very much. Now let's jump into this. Texas finally wins this game. Let's throw up that score, 22-17. In a game they were favored, so Vegas knew better than us apparently that we should have won this game because let me tell you, as a Texas fan, I said it in last week's postgame show. I thought we were getting skull dragged in this game. I thought this was going to be a blowout. We blew out Kansas State at their place last year, and we run all over them. I think we run for over 250 yards. So you would assume they want to come in and do like the same type of thing and just kill us. They weren't able to. They didn't even score in the second half. Props to the defense. I think the defense only gave up like 17 yards passing in the second half. So fantastic job. And look at that. A lot of these young guys got to play today and played really well. David Gabenda played really well. Jalen Ford played really well. Jade Barron was named the starter this week, played pretty well. So, I mean, there's some talent on this defense. It just took a while, and obviously the last game possibly of the season to find it. So going into next season, we need to build around those guys. Hopefully someone like DeMarvion comes back, helps. No offense to Sean Jamison, but I'm kind of hoping he's gone because he's not the greatest cornerback in the world. He's a good speedster, good returner, but he's not a great corner. So props to him and his service here, but I think we need to move on. And then obviously being senior day, it was important to get these guys a win, send them out on the right note. And possibly it is their last game at DKR, but possibly their last game of their college career in general. So that was nice. If we don't get into a bowl game, obviously being 5-7, we got to wait out because we didn't handle our business throughout the season and get to bowl eligibility. But overall, it's nice to end that 6-game losing streak. Just end on a positive note. If this is indeed our last game of the season, so that was just overall nice. Let's jump into the comments. Thank God. Exactly. I'm just glad we won finally, and we look competent in doing so. Obviously, the defense played very well today. The offense played pretty well. Not great. And obviously, Casey's hurt, guys. It's pretty obvious. He can't force the ball down the field. Basically, he got a little bit better this week in being able to drive the ball, but he can't. Over 30 yards, it just looks like he's like basically a wounded duck being thrown out there is what it looks like. So I'm glad he looked at least decent today. And then Roschon, obviously, player of the game. Had his career high. I believe he had like 170 plus yards on the ground. He had his career high last year versus Kansas State, ups it again this year versus Kansas State. So he loves to play against those Wildcats for whatever reason. I like the introduction of the Wildcat formation with him. I like the trickery with Xavier Worthy throwing the ball. I wish we would have seen more stuff like that throughout the season and not just in the last game of the season. Again, it just seemed like awkward situations where Sark would call these great plays. We saw them in spurts throughout the season, but we never saw a whole game plan full of them. The best we got was the Oklahoma first half, and he kind of stopped using them after that up until this game, basically. PK got the defense revved up, and my guy Jameson is terrible. Can't wait for the possible. Yeah, the bowl, I'm more excited for just the practices to get the young guys more practice time and building a culture. And I agree, Jameson's not a very good corner. I think Jade Barron's going to be a decent cornerback, so he's there for next year. You got to find the one opposite side of him that can lock things down as well. I don't know who that's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be a recruit like Denver Harris, or we're going to have to go in the transfer portal. We'll find out. Drew, yeah, Vegas been saying we're going to win most of these games. I don't know if that's true. I don't think we were favored in the Iowa State game. I think we weren't favored in the West Virginia game. We weren't favored in the Baylor game. So Vegas favored us today, and I think every Longhorn fan today felt like we were going to lose and that we won. So I think I need to go back and check for sure for me saying this. I think Vegas has been right more often than not with us. I think we've been The only game that comes to mind that they were just totally off on is Arkansas. I think we were favored in that game but we were only favored by like 2 points. It's kind of a trap line. Casey nearly threw 3 to 4 picks. Luke doesn't trust him. It's Cards probably next season. Possibly, I don't know. I think if we get a bowl game, whoever starts that bowl game is going to be the starter next year. Because basically, you're telling me that person got all the reps of the extra practices. If you better not be wasting on a guy that's not going to be here next year. So if whoever's your starter needs to get first team reps in those practices, in my opinion. RD saved the game for us. Yeah, it's the first time all season we've been able to say that. Usually they're the ones choking it away, or a combination of the two. It's not just all on them, but they haven't been good this year. This is by far and away their best game. And maybe that's because we played the younger guys who are probably more talented. No offense to Luke Brockermeyer, but Jalen Ford and David Gabender are more talented than he is. He's a great kid, great hustle, but that's just the case. And they played very well today. Jalen Ford's been playing well every chance he's gotten. David Gabender has been inconsistent, but when he shines pretty bright. So it's been good seeing those guys get playing time. I tend to agree with this take. I don't think the QB is on the roster. I think we're gonna have to go in the transfer portal to find the quarterback of the future. Um, but I do think one of them stays and competes for whoever comes in the transfer portal, because I doubt the transfer portal quarterback's just going to be given the job right away. He's going to have to compete because he's transferring for some reason. I have never seen a quarterback transfer just make that much of a difference other than like a Justin Fields, and that was just basically Kirby Smart being dumb. I don't see a Justin Fields in the transfer portal this year. I don't think Spencer Rattler's that way. I don't think Miles Brennan's that way. I don't see anyone like that. And then Joe Burrow obviously took off, but that was just special for him, what came together there. You have two really good wide receivers that were on the roster. You had Joe Brady coming from the Saints, run the perfect offense for him. He was not very good his first year. So don't expect some magic wand quarterback to come in here and fix everything next year. I just don't see that happening. I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't see that happening. And I don't see that guy. I don't see a savior coming in the transfer portal like that, like a Justin Fields type. I just don't see it. 100% agree. They showed fight today. Hey, good on Sark. These boys had no reason to play, and he got them to be sufficiently motivated to pull out a win. 100%. Like they didn't have to play today, and they played pretty well. They looked motivated. They gave heart. I mean, I don't know how many fans were there. My guess is probably like 25 to 30,000. I mean, there were seats going for like $6 down in bowls. Where if Texas is really good, those are like $300-$400 seats. So that's just insane. Um, so this is, I mean, it was a good win. Kansas State's kind of been up and down all year, but I'm going to take a win when I can get it because we haven't won in probably 2 months. It's been about 2 months, guys. So take a win when you can get them. Hey, I didn't say it has. Like I said, both these quarterbacks have shown they have upside, but they also have downside. No one showed the consistency necessary for me to be able to say, hey, this is for sure the starter next year. So to me, if you do get in a bowl game, you need to put the chips all in on one of the guys and say, "Hey, guess what? You're gonna compete for the starting job next year." And this first step is you get all the first team reps going into the bowl game. That has to be done if we do get in a bowl game, because it'd just be a waste of time to split reps at this point. You need to decide. And in my opinion, I think Sark's going to end up falling back on what he went with. He went with Hudson Card for a reason to start the season. I believe he believes in Hudson Card. It would not shock me if Hudson Card, if he's healthy and we get to a bowl game, if he's a starting quarterback, and then whoever comes in to compete from the portal, those two compete, and whoever wins the job from those two obviously is the starting quarterback. That's what I think is going to end up happening. Yeah, Drew, I figured the last couple months, like, it was pretty obvious this team kind of quit. Like, I will say this though, the last 2 weeks they didn't quit. Something Sark or someone said something, maybe the Bo Davis thing after the Iowa State game, where basically the quitters realized what was happening and the team was going to start trading on them, so they actually started trying again. I don't know. But there's been a different vibe with this team the past 2 weeks. I know we lost last week, but we played better and we actually seemed like we cared. Whereas the Iowa State game, the second half, we didn't want to tackle anyone. Brees Hall ran through us very easily, and there were multiple games like that before. So basically, between the second half of Oklahoma And from then on out, I would say we quit up until whatever happened. Like I said, could have been the Bo Davis speech after the Iowa State game. The West Virginia and Kansas State game seemed like a different tune, a different torch was lit. Something happened in that locker room to where these guys are playing better. I don't know why, but I mean, it hasn't been released, and that's a good thing too. That's another good culture thing. Locker room stuff shouldn't be getting released like that Bo Davis video. In a good culture, that doesn't get released. So maybe something happened. I don't know. But yeah, 100%. You never apologize for the wins. You take them when they come, especially with the team like we've had this year. They've been hard to come by. This is only our third Big 12 win. Only our it's our first win, like I said, basically 2 months. So you never apologize for it. You take it, you move on with it, you get better from it. That's what you got to do. Card could possibly be if he settles down in the pocket. Yeah, and if you go back and watch that West Virginia game, once he hits that deep pass to Xavier Worthy, he somewhat settled down. His footwork still needs to get better, but his pocket presence was better. He was more decisive. He was more accurate. So that could have been a confidence builder, and it would have been very interesting to see if he stays in that game. If we win that game, I personally think we do if he stays in it. And I think he would have played this week if we end up winning that game, obviously, and he doesn't get hurt. So, and both shout out to him and Casey trying to play through injuries. Card last week coming in, clearly could barely walk, comes in, decides to play. Doesn't want the third string Ben Ballard coming in, who's never played before. So respect to that. And then Casey Thompson clearly was hurt today. And it came out for like 3 to 4 plays there in a row. We ran Wildcat, did a couple trick plays, and then he was able to come back in. So shout out to him. Shout out to Xavier Worthy. Shout out to our leader, Roshan Johnson. I believe that guy is the leader of this football team going forward. He needs to be, I think he was a captain this year. I'm not 100%, but he needs to be going forward. He needs to be a captain. What the hell? Did he really? Wow. That actually shocks me because he was our first commit. Offense has been playing well. Um, when healthy. So I don't understand that. I don't really know. I kind of like stopped following him after he committed to us, like who were the offers he was coming in. I'm sure Alabama or someone like that's offered him. I mean, if he wants to go there, I understand it. There's certain schools I just don't understand. Alabama's clearly not one of them. You go there, I understand why you're going there. Stanford's one of them. That's pretty crazy to be honest with you. Armani was shaky. I kind of saw. Okay, I didn't see it coming to be honest with you. Once someone, I saw the Jamarion Miller one coming. That didn't surprise me. I thought either him or Jane Blue would decommit at some point, one of the two. And when Alabama came calling, I wasn't surprised. He got the dub for her though, so happy for that dude. Yeah, that was cool. Cool moment with Tope bringing out a picture of his mom on senior day. By the way, he played very well at the end of the season. The offensive line in general got a lot better the last couple games in the season. It sucks that we're going to lose Kirkstetter and Imade. I think we're starting to build a little bit of chemistry. We're just getting better in the trenches. And now we got to, find 2 tackles. I think Christian Jones got better. So I think you definitely give him a shot to compete for the left tackle spot, but you got to bring in someone else just in case. But they definitely got better. He's going to Ohio State. Man, they get every wide receiver, so I'm not surprised. That's crazy. Drew. Wow, someone fact check that. Fact check what? What are we fact checking? Yeah, it was. I mean, coming in and playing on a Friday after Thanksgiving, especially, I don't know why the Big 12 made us play Kansas State. It would make more sense to play Texas Tech, at least somewhat of a rivalry. But it is what it is. I mean, it doesn't make much sense to me. After Texas A&M, to be honest with you, nothing really makes sense to playing on after Thanksgiving. I think we should just play on Saturday, but it's what the Big 12 does. So, biggest weakness on this team seems to be at linebacker. See, I agree with that depth-wise, but I like Jalen Ford and David Gabenda, so I do agree we need to add more depth there, and if DeMarvion comes back, I actually like the linebacker, core a lot. Those 3 guys, and then if you can add another guy, I think that linebacker I like that room. I think cornerback's our weakest, to be honest with you. We don't really have anyone out there. You have Keaton Crawford, who hasn't really shown much. Jay Barron's good, but not great. Obviously, Jameson's not very good. He probably won't be back. And then Darian Dunn is just no. So I think that's the weakest room. I think we need to find someone there like a Denver Harris who can just slide in immediately and then go get someone from a lower tier school who will come in and slot in at the other cornerback position and have Jade fight with him for a spot. But I think that's the weakest spot. Or safety. Safety's pretty weak as well. I think Sark has other dudes coming in, which pushed Armani to decommit. Yeah, but Armani's really good. So who's coming? Like that's the thing. Is it going to be Kevin Coleman? I doubt it. That'd be awesome. Is it going to be Evan Stewart at this point? That seems unlikely. Brendan Thompson seems pretty solid, so we for sure have him. There's another name that escapes my mind right now that could possibly be coming in. I think he's committed to CJ Williams, but I don't see that. I don't see him flipping from what Notre Dame. So I don't know who else we would get, to be honest with you. Well, Sark already knew this might be gold. Golden is possible. I don't think Hudson's coming here because he's been crystal balled by like 3 people to go to TCU, and there's been a lot of rumors that Rashad Samples is headed there. So that's a possible. I think he's going there. I really do. I don't think he's coming on to us. Golden is possible though. But still, that 3 wide receivers in a class isn't that many. I mean, so you would have Winfield, Thompson, and then Golden. Unless he thinks, like I said, maybe we're just totally everyone's totally wrong, and we end up getting Evan Stewart. I just don't see that happening at this point. But we'll see. Yeah, that was really good that we saw Dicker Dicker. Both kickers had a highlight reel play and got good tackles today. And then hopefully Dicker comes back next year. I think that's someone you usually don't do this where you recruit a kicker and a punter to come back like that, but I think you have to. I think he's very good at what he does, and I think it's going to be hard to replace him. So we need to get him back, in my opinion. I think there's a good chance because I don't know if he's going to get drafted. I don't know if he's a good enough kicker or punter to be drafted at this point. I think he'd be an undrafted free agent. I could see a team possibly taking like a 6th or 7th round pick, but if I'm Sark, I try to convince him to come back. Portal for a wide receiver? Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like I said, there's a bunch of position groups that need depth more than anything, and that's one of them. I think the tackle spot is one of those where you're looking for guys to come and compete right away. I think the cornerback spot is looking for your guys to compete right away. I think safety's the same way. I think linebacker more of after today's game, especially. I think you're more of looking at good depth pieces that can start but are fine with sitting. I think wide receivers kind of the same way. We could use another really good one, but I think Brendan Thompson will be able to do at least somewhat of Xavier Worthy, what he was able to do this year. I'm not expecting him to do what he did because that would be insanity. But if you're telling me we can get 30 to 40% of that production that we got out of Xavier Worthy from Brendan Thompson in his freshman year, have Xavier Worthy either build off of or just stay the same, and then Jordan Whittington come back healthy with Marcus Washington, and you just bring someone else to compete plus the other recruits, I think that position group's pretty good. Yeah, Shaz Preston, I heard about him. There's a lot of good wide receivers, so I'm not angry at Armani Winfield. My question is, who do you get to replace him? That's really all I'm asking here. And I mean, I don't understand why people continue to do this. You're going to Ohio State. A lot of Garrett Wilson will be gone, but you still have Julian Fleming. You still have Jackson Smith and Jigba. I forget the other guy that they got. He was like a top 3 wide receiver in either last year's class or 2 years ago. So they're going to start ahead of you at Ohio State. If you come into Texas and you're decent, you're probably going to get a lot of playing time. Like Armani Winfield to me is someone who could slide right in, and if you have 4 wide receivers out there, he could be your 3rd or 4th wide receiver. So I don't really understand the mindset there. Is now if you're just all about winning, 100% go to Ohio State. But if you're, in my opinion, most recruits I feel like want to be drafted first, so they look at like where can I produce the most. If you're a wide receiver, to me, I think we're in the top 5 in college football for that. Like you're going to produce when you come here in Sark's offense. Now for winning, if that's your number one thing, probably not going to happen next year. So I understand that if that's your number one priority, but if you want stats and want to show off for the NFL like Xavier Worthy did this year as a freshman, come here. And I fully believe Sark can do the same thing that he did for Xavier Worthy with you. But maybe I'm wrong. If you're Sark, do you accept the bowl bid at 5? Yeah, you 100% accept it. First off, it gets you a chance to build morale, culture. through the practices. It gets you to see who you want going into next year to start at certain positions. The practices are very key, guys. I don't think the practices can be understated for the simple fact Tom Herman went from 7-6 to 10-4, and I believe a lot of that had to do with the bowl practices because we saw a lot of guys shine in that bowl game and then going in next year and shine even more into that next year. So I think that's what the bowl game is mostly for. If we win or lose that bowl game, I could care less. I just want the practices for the bowl game. Remember, Worthy was a 4-star. Golden and Thompson can be Worthy like players. I wouldn't put that much expectation on them personally, just because what Xavier Worthy is doing is very extraordinary. Not many freshman wide receivers come in and do this, guys. It's not natural to do this as a freshman. So don't put those expectations on those guys. I think that'd be unfair. Like I said, if Brennan Thompson next year were to catch 20 to 30 passes for 300 to 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, I would be perfectly fine with that. That means he made a slight impact on the offense. That's all I expect out of a freshman. I don't expect the freshman to be the best player on your team. I think that'd be pretty asinine and ridiculous to do that, in my opinion. I mean, coming into this year, did we expect Xavier Worthy to do this? I expected him to be good. I didn't expect him to be one of the probably 10 best wide receivers in college football. I think to do that to another guy coming in here and set those expectations would be pretty. I just wouldn't do it. Just don't do that. Worthy is the only guy the rest of the wide receivers average or below average. I think they're average. I think we have a bunch of C wide receivers. I don't think they're below average. I think Marcus Washington's a C wide receiver. I think Jordan Whittington's a C wide receiver. Uh, and those are like the two guys that come to mind. Like I said, we need to build depth at that position, and we need for sure someone to step up either in the portal and come in and be like, I think just be our third best wide receiver. Like I think Jordan Whittington can be our second best wide receiver. You got to remember, he isn't a total natural wide receiver. Like, look at his high school film. He did a lot of running back, played all over. And then with the injuries and stuff, it's probably been hard for him to grasp the offense, even though I know Sark, I believe in the offseason, said he was like the fastest at doing so. But then getting injured and having to play different positions, I still think there's a lot of room for him to improve there. So just come in and build depth through the portal, or have someone like Jordan Hudson, Shaz Preston, if you have someone like that, or even Evan Stewart, if still possible to get him, come in and be your number two, or be your number three if possible. I don't know if that's possible though. The positive of not playing a bowl game is the time to recruit the players in the portal, and that's another positive. You can look at that as a positive. So, I mean, you can do both. You have time to do both, but I would agree with you. Like, if you were boiling it down to would I rather be in a bowl game at the practices or rather hit the portal hard and recruiting hard, I'd probably rather hit recruiting in the portal hard. But you can do both. That's has nothing to do with that, the Asian persuasion. It's a Texas brand. It's with the ratings we draw. We'd 100% get invited to a bowl game. We'd be number one on that list of 5 and 7 teams. It wouldn't even be close if they don't get enough 6 and 6 teams to fill out the bowls. So that's not even a question. That doesn't matter about the loss to Kansas. It's all about that Texas brand, all about the ratings. Sark schemes with speed. I'm not expecting contested catches, but I think his scheme, Thompson and Golden are reliable catchers with burner speed. Picked up Chris Ball in the class over the weekend. Yeah, I mean, that's true, but the thing is, you have to have Troy O'Meara too. We forget about his injury, him coming back. I think he can make a decent impact. You know, he's not a typical Sark wide receiver, so that's another guy we got to take into consideration. If he stays too, I don't know. He could transfer. Yeah, 100%. Tech's always going to be invited to a bowl game because of the brand, the ratings, the pageantry. That's what college football is about. So we'll get invited. Should he accept that invite? That's up for debate. I think you should personally, but who knows? And I may be talking about this now. By the end of all the games on Saturday, it may not matter. Like there may be too many 6 and 6 teams, so this may be a moot point. Is that are you if you're talking about Worthy, or I don't know exactly who you're talking about, but yeah, I think that Sark does a very good job of recognizing talent on the offensive side of the ball. So I trust him on that side. Defense obviously looked better today. So we'll see going forward. That'd be another interesting thing too, to see if the defense continues to look better. The last 2 games they looked decent. If they continue to look better in the bowl game, that'd be pretty interesting to see as well. We got invited under 5 and 6. Yeah, we did. So we could deny it. That's a possibility. I could see that. But I really believe the practices are important, guys. I really do. But we could deny it. Again, for, like, hitting recruiting and the transfer portal, that's another thing that was brought up, so that could be a possibility. No, it 100% looked logical this game. This was, like, the first game all year I'm like, "Okay, this actually makes sense." And maybe, like I said, it could be the players. He could be playing with one hand tied or play calling with one hand tied behind his back to where the player's strengths don't meet up with his strengths, so he has to do a lot of things that he doesn't really want to do. Possibility. But again, it's hard to know because he doesn't talk. I would love to see assistant coaches available during the week to be asked like 4 or 5 questions. Just ask him like, what are you seeing that we aren't? Why are you doing this? Well, blah, 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 blah. Like some of his stuff just logically doesn't make sense most of the time. This game it did. And a lot of that has to do with, let's be honest here, Will Howard is not very good. Skylar Thompson is much better. I feel bad for that guy because he's always hurt, but I can't. I mean, it shows the lack of talent on defense also when we're getting outrun by Will Howard, who's not a very good runner, and he's just beating everyone down the left sideline, like everyone. He even outran Deshaun Jameson. I think Rashad Samples may get like a head coaching job. There's been rumors of that at TCU, so that'd be interesting. Who knows? Or he could get the head coaching job at SMU if Sonny Dykes leaves. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know what's going to happen to him. All I know is he's going to get paid. I don't know if we're going to be able to afford him this offseason. Jimmy Lake, I agree with, and I think we end up getting him. He may want to keep some of that money, so we may just hire him on as an analyst, but maybe not. Yeah, I actually had that game on. I'm actually from Dayton, Ohio, so that was pretty. And Dayton is terrible, by the way, this year. They lost to Austin P and UMass Lowell, so that's a terrible loss for Kansas. Yep, Robert, we've already discussed it. Armani Winfield decommitted, obviously the first recruit in the class, and he decommitted. That's going to be interesting. I know. I think Old Miss is high on him. I think that's a possibility. I think Texas obviously is a possibility. Ohio State is also up there. I just don't see that happening. That wouldn't make any sense to me with the logjam they have at quarterback. So I think it's going to end up being either us or possibly Old Miss. Peter DeGray, if you're a 5-star wideout and pick A&M to be the blocker than the ball out, like Xavier Worthy, then you are a dumbass. I actually agree with that. I don't understand why any wide receiver would want to go to A&M. Again, it's about your priorities as well, though. Like, if you want to win, then I understand A&M at least wins at a higher level than Texas. But then again, if you really want to win, then why wouldn't you just go to Alabama where you can win and put up numbers? That's like the number one thing why I'm never going to blame anyone for going to Alabama because you can win and put up numbers. You may have to wait a year or two. Evan Stewart probably wouldn't start his freshman year. He'd probably get in for probably catch 10 to 20 balls, maybe 30 max. And then he next year, his sophomore year, be the year he solidifies himself. So that would, if I was him, that's where I would go. If you're choosing between Alabama, Texas A&M, but then I would choose Texas. Like, hey, you're not doing anything at A&M. You see what Demas is doing at A&M. He's doing nothing. He's not building his brand. He's not building an NFL resume. So I really don't understand why you'd want to go there. But hey, that's on him. I think Kiffin has gone somewhere this season. I mean, possibly. I mean, you have Florida, you have possibly Miami, you have LSU. Um, Obviously, James Franklin, I don't think is going anywhere. Mel Tucker, I don't think is going on anywhere. I'd be surprised if Dave Aranda doesn't go anywhere, but it wouldn't shock me. And if he doesn't go anywhere, obviously that makes obviously our job tougher with him building what he's building at Baylor. Um, I think LSU, to me, if they don't get like Lincoln Riley, which I think there's a little chance of that, I don't think it's a big one. I would hire Lane Kiffin. I don't know if they would, but I would. That would personally be my number one hire after like if you go after the big names like Lincoln Riley, and then obviously I don't think Fickle's going anywhere either. But that's who I'd go after, and I think Florida would be smart to go after him as well. But I just don't see that happening. Apparently, he has too much baggage, which is BS. But it'd be interesting to see where Dan Mullen ends up as well. Most likely as an analyst on Alabama or the offensive coordinator at Alabama. So it's a nightmare season for everyone in the SEC next year when he's there. It's insane the amount of coaching talent they have on their in the program. Amon is the most overhyped program. Half a decade of being told they're national championship contenders and always flattering like NM always has. I mean, yeah, I don't think they're the most overrated, but they are overrated. But I mean, we can't say that, guys. We've been overrated as well, and we're 5-7. So let's leave that talk up for another year. Oh, I had to go up back to this. The first comment in here, Firestar. There's no way this is a Texas fan, and if it is, please stop with this nonsense. Firing a coach after 1 year only leads to disaster. It never works out. It's just dumb. Actually, I don't even know the last time a college coach got fired after 1 year. In the NFL, understandable because just a lot more stuff goes into it. Obviously, you can turn a team around in 1 year in the NFL through free agency and stuff like that. And maybe that's more a possibility now with the portal and college football, but we'll have to see. No, that's true. No, I agree, but the media is the one that overhypes. Well, I mean, their fans do too, but I would agree with you. It used to be Texas fans like 5 to 6 years ago. But the last 3 to 4 years, it has been the media for the most part overhyping Texas. Whereas Texas A&M, it seems to be their fans are delusional and think, yeah, we're going to compete for a national championship or win a national championship or win an SEC championship, and that just hasn't been the case. So I would agree with you that it mostly is the fans of Texas A&M. Whereas at Texas, it was 5 to 6 years ago about the fans. Now it's more about the media overhypes us for whatever reason. We legit can't fire Sark. If they did that, that would actually lose all hope. I would agree with that, unless again you could hire like an Urban Meyer, Nick Saban, but that's not going to happen. And anyways, that'd be stupid to do after what happened last year with Urban Meyer turning us down. So you could have kept Tom Herman for a year and then hired Urban Meyer. So instead of spending like $40 million on Sark's staff and Sark himself, and then hiring Urban Meyer, that just doesn't make any sense to me. But Texas at this point doesn't make any sense to me. And finally, I think we do have the right athletic director. I mean, he hired a good women's basketball coach, hired a good baseball coach, hired a good basketball coach. So I trust him. He's done a good job of uniting as what Chris Beard has said, what he want to do with basketball. I think Chris Conte has done that with the administration, uniting the Texas family. Yeah, I heard about that. I think it's BS. I don't believe it. I don't think boosters. If first off, if that is true, then that is sad because number one, it should be about who's the best player. I don't care if that person's purple, yellow, black, blue, white, orange, green. Like your job at the University of Texas as a coach and someone supporting the program is to win football games or win basketball games or win softball games or whatever sport it is. That is your job as a coach and as an administrator and as someone who is supposedly carrying like a booster who gives money to the Texas school or the Texas program of their choosing. You shouldn't care what color they are. So I think it is BS, but if it's not, that's really sad and stupid. You think Christian Jones moves back to right tackle and Junior? I think Junior probably does move back to right guard, but I think Christian Jones will be competing for the left tackle or right tackle spot, but I'm mostly left tackle spot with whoever we bring in. I don't think he's just given the job. He has improved a lot over the year. I mean, go watch him the first 3 or 4 games. He's gotten a lot better since then, but he's still not elite at left tackle. So if you can go in and find someone in the portal possibly and they show us that they are elite, then I'd rather obviously put them out at left tackle. But I think there's a pretty good chance Christian Jones is starting on the offensive line, either at right tackle or left tackle next year. Again, this is the 40 Acres postgame show. Please hit a like. Please subscribe. Leave a comment. Um, Go over to MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football, on the ticker down below. Follow him, subscribe to him, like his videos. Go over to the channels, find your favorite team, subscribe to them, like their videos. It really helps out what Mark is trying to build here. Thank you very much for sticking with me through this difficult season, Texas fans. Possibly the last game of the season. Possibly not. Maybe we get a bowl invite. We'll have to see. But thank you. Please hit that like button. Kyle Flood has been working his ass off to get these boys making holes. I agree. I think the offensive line's gotten much better. Obviously, Kyle Flood is worlds better than Herban. Herban was terrible. Our problem is we can't wait for a coach to build. We need to give Sark 5 years because getting rid of coaches get you know. I agree. I think Sark. I think you probably give him 5 years, unless again, like guys, we're 5-7 this year. If we go 5-7 again next year, you probably got to cut your. I just don't see it happening. Like there has to be some improvement every year. I'm fine with little steps, but they have to be steps in the right direction. You can't go backwards. This team was 5-7 this year. They need to be, in my opinion, at least 7-5 next year, and then try to go for 8-4, 9-3 the year after, and then build from that. I mean, the Kansas State win wouldn't build off of it. I think a bowl win with all the practice could possibly push you into next season and build off that. I don't think winning a game versus Kansas State at the end of the year is going to build off of that. After this, I'm going to check how many sixes. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. Washington, I know, plays tonight. I saw that on the ticker. They play Washington State, and they're only have 4 wins or 5 wins as well. So if they win, they'll be bowl eligible. So if you want us to go to a bowl game, root against Washington, if you have any interest in that, root for Washington State. Obviously, that'd be a team in our way. I don't know of many other 5-win teams that are looking for their 6th win. I'm trying to think. I can't really think of any. I think Indiana possibly. They may only have 4 wins. I'm not sure. But I know Washington was one for sure when I was looking at the ticker down below of the Texas game. And how many of you would be in favor of going to a bowl game or turning down a bowl game? Like, what's your perspective on that? Would you rather us turn it down, and then basically we go out and recruit and hit the portal harder, or I think it's still possible we can hit the portal and recruiting a little bit. I don't think we'll be able to go full bore on it or anything like that. But or would you rather see us get in a bowl game? I'd like to see your guys' perspective on that. Ironically, Herman is the favorite for the Washington jump. That'd be kind of funny. I actually think he'd do a decent job there. I think the Pac-12 is weak. I think he recruits decently enough, and I think if you win 7, 8 games there a year, you got yourself at least a 6, 7-year job. Uh, I mean, basically, other than Chris Peterson, that program hasn't really been to the level that they once were at. I mean, you had Steve Sarkisian. He was okay, not great. Jimmy Lake wasn't very good. I forget the guy before Steve Sarkisian, but he went 0-12 his last year. So, I mean, that program has been down bad other than Chris Peterson. So, if you win 7, 8 games a year there, you got yourselves at least, in my opinion, 6 to 8 years. Then after that, they'll probably get antsy and probably fire you just for the simple fact they would expect you to take the next step. But I think Tom Herman could be there for 6 to 8 years and do that. I think he wins 7, 8 games there. Robert, with a completely healthy Hudson or Casey, can we get to 7, 8 wins? And if you're talking about next year, yeah, I think 7 in the regular season is a possibility. 8 maybe stretching. I think this team could easily go 8-5 with a bowl win next year. That wouldn't shock me, but that's probably where my expectations are. 8-5, including a bowl win. Go to a bowl and win. I agree with you. I'd like to see this team build off of what they've had the past 2 games in culture building and also getting younger players to play and stuff like that. So I'd like to see him play a bowl game. I don't know who it would be against, but it'd be interesting. Miami is perfect for Herman. Washington, maybe. I don't know. I feel like Herman would be. I don't know. Maybe to me he just seems toxic. So maybe he'd fit perfect in Miami. You know, when they were really good, that was a toxic program. They're doing all types of stuff that they shouldn't have been doing, but they were winning. So go to a bowl. I'm not ready for their last game since September is a long way away. Yeah, it is a long way away. To be honest with you, I didn't even last couple games I didn't want to watch, but at least they're showing fight now. So I like watching them. I liked watching versus West Virginia and Kansas State. Before it's just yeah, it was like getting teeth pulled to watch them. They didn't care about being there, and I didn't care about watching them when I was watching them. My goal range next year, New York 6. Whoa, New York 6. You're talking if that's your maximum, fine, you can. But I think like we should, as a fan base, be thinking 8-5 bowl with a bowl, 8-5 including a bowl win. I think that should be the expectation for next year. No to the bowl. Florida and Florida State both 5-6. That's a good point. I didn't even think about those 2 teams. Man, that would be an interesting bowl game, Florida State versus Texas. That's a possibility, and they would absolutely love the ratings would. I mean, the ratings would kill on that game, even though it'd be a terrible game. Not a terrible game, but just like terrible teams playing each other, basically. But it'd be 2 brand names, or even Florida versus Texas, like 2 brand names colliding, SEC versus Big 12 or ACC versus Big 12. That would pull in numbers. Yeah, it would be. And that's the thing too, like, it's all about like, people see casual fans see Florida versus Texas, and, "Oh, that's a good game." They don't even care about the records, they just see the brands, and they go and watch the game. So, that would 100% be it'd be an interesting game. I think Florida State versus Texas would be an interesting game. It's been hard to look forward to them this year just for the simple fact is we knew what was coming. Like, every second half, this team fell apart. The last 2 weeks, that hasn't happened as badly, especially this week. They stepped up in the second half and played a lot better in the fourth quarter. So, that's why I've looked forward to I'm hoping to look forward to watching them play in a bowl game because I've seen improvement. I have seen less quit than I saw before. So, I definitely that would be exciting to see him play again, to be honest with you. If they kept up the same old BS of quitting like they did versus Iowa State or quitting like they did versus Baylor, I didn't want to watch that. Imagine the small bowl raking cash. Exactly. That's what it's all about. That's why, like that right there. Imagine Florida versus Texas, December 29th, 29th, like at 6 o'clock. That you'd get probably 2 to 3 million viewers for a small bowl, maybe even more, and you'd get a lot of money from that. 100% it'd be an off day and a lot of yeah, like I said, Texas and Florida would draw eyes. Texas and Florida State would draw eyes. If Washington became bowl eligible and there was enough for 5 and 7 teams, Washington versus Texas would draw eyes. Like these I mean, Washington to a lesser extent than the other two, but still a decently big brand. Okay, I'm gonna throw this up on the screen. Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, please go down. It's right there on the ticker. I did not know you had hit that. I thought it automatically went up on the ticker, so that's my bad. Um, please go over to him, subscribe to him. Please like this video, like his videos, like all the other team channels that he has over there. And it's been awesome to be with you guys throughout the year. We're going to continue to pump out stuff throughout the off season, and possibly if we have a bowl game, I'll be back for the post game show for that, and probably a pregame breakdown of that as well. But again, it's awesome for you guys to watch me talk about football as a fan, to hear your opinions, your comments. It's been just an awesome year building this channel. Let's continue to build this channel into the offseason. Let's try to get 2,500 subscribers by the start of next year, maybe even more than that, but that's at least the goal. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe. It's been an honor to do this. Throw them horns up.